Jacqui. Welcome to the AP Arms. It's such a pleasure to have you in our little pub here. I've been really looking forward to this chat. It's been great working with yourself and Full Speed, and the team. Full Speed's such a fast-paced business, and you're leading the AP team right at the heart of that. I guess just before we begin, it'd be good if we could do a little bit of an intro, and just learn a little bit about yourself for those that are watching.
Yeah. So I've been in AP for 8 or 9 years. I used to be in social work. And then I kind of got a temp job doing some accounting work and quickly moved up because AP is historically so slow paced that, my eye for tech and innovation and automation has put me in a place to continue to grow in this field. So yeah, I've been with Full Speed Automotive. It'll be 3 years in like 2 weeks, October 12th, I think, actually, and seen immense growth this company in terms of just better ingredients, better pizza. I like to say, like, we have better staff, we have better systems. And I started at this company with 13 direct reports with a 23-day close for AP. And Lord knows how many days it was for GL close, but we're now down to a 3-day AP close, 2.5 days because of Xelix. I'll touch on that later. And then 5 days for the GL. And I have 5 direct reports now. So again, like I said, better ingredients, better pizza, better staff, better systems, better automations in place. And I just really love to look at the problems in the department and kind of see what I can do to fix them, pretty much.
Got you. Yeah, shaking things up.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that intro. I guess before we get into like the big AP topics, I have a lot of questions for you. But there's a bit of a tradition that we have here at the Arms. So imagine that we are sat in this cozy little pub. One question I have before we get into the AP stuff is, do you have a classic pub story or a great anecdote from a night out that you've had up your sleeve that you could share with us?
This year, I did go to a Xelix customer engagement thing in Nashville, where they were kind of talking about new product development and stuff like that. That was really cool. But what was more cool is the first night I got there before, the kind of conference thing started, is we all kind of went out for dinner and drinks on Broadway in Nashville. And I actually had the most fun I've ever had in Nashville than I've had with anyone else. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm with the C-suite people. I didn't even realize it. And they were so cool and they took such good care of me. And I felt so safe and they were so fun. And it was just like no drama. We had the best time ever. And so that will be my corporate appropriate pub time story.
That's great. That's so good. I'm glad you had a good time. Never let it be
Absolutely.
said.
Can't wait for next one.
Yeah, 100%. Fingers crossed. I can join you at the next one.
Lewis, if you're not there, I'm going to talk to your boss.
Please do. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that. Now I've got a couple of questions that I prepared beforehand to just ask you about your time in accounts payable and your thoughts on the function in general. The first question I've got for you is really about your team, though. So, I guess, how would you describe the culture within your AP team over at Full Speed, and what practices have you used to help you maintain that culture?
So I have come from some previous controllers and CFOs that have not really been very transparent, have not provided work-life balance. And so I came into this role really wanting to be the manager I always wish I had. So what I really find that has kept my folks engaged is I'm very transparent. I also lead with education, lots of trainings. I want to make sure that my team understands why we're changing, what the end goal is. And then and back to again, like why, like, are we reducing risk? Are we increasing efficiency? Are we improving supplier relationships or payment timeliness? Like, I don't underestimate how much time it takes to bring people along, because change is scary for a lot of people. And change management to me is as much about empathy as it is about process design. And I really try to bring that into my management scope.
Yeah, that really comes across, I think, when seeing you work with your team as well. And so my next question is kind of touching on that, and you kind of mentioned a couple of things that I think will help answer this question here. But you've led your team through some quite significant changes. Um, I guess, can you share an example of with us of a transformation that you've helped guide them through, and how did you keep everybody on track and engaged with that transformation?
Excuse me. Do we want to say Xelix specific? Because I think that plays more into this conversation right now. We discovered through, many one-on-ones that people were not having the time to process statements at all, at all. And typically, the vendor reaches out about invoices we owe them, but they're not reaching out about credits that they haven't issued us, that we're finding on statements, but we're not looking at the statements. So with Xelix in particular, keeping them on board, I think that, Lewis, you were very instrumental in that. I think that, again, bringing that transparency and that education back to that, like the management fundamentals, I made sure that I had a clear path on where we were going before I set forth with the Xelix. And then you were more than willing than able to meet with us weekly until we really found our bearings with the software. And even after that, we were still finding tools and ways to use the system that we weren't actually even taught, that were incredible for what we needed in our environment, right? Like, it's not going to be the same for everybody. And then keeping them engaged with the software, giving them goals, the platform, giving them goals in terms of, their KPIs, which are just for me, really. They're not high level for anyone above me, like no C-suite people really care about how many emails people are ingesting or solving weekly. But having that visualization really helped me to see where people are at with their progress and like how much time they're really spending on what they say they're spending on.
Mm.
But more importantly, I really do think that you just made yourself so available during the onboarding and even after the onboarding, when we had questions like 3, 6, 8 months down the line about random things. You were always willing to get on a call with us and talk it through. And having that support, I think, is really important for my team to remain like engaged and have clarity on the system.
That's amazing. That's really nice to hear. So thank you for that. I'm glad that it made a big difference to you and the team.
Absolutely. No one knows
Cool.
it better than you.
Yeah. Okay, fab. And then cool. I guess my next question is around about audit and control. So of course, Xelix, I mean, we are an audit and control platform. My question to you is, in such a high volume, kind of fast moving environment, balancing compliance with day-to-day operations can be tricky. So I was wondering, how is it that you strike a balance between your day-to-day operations and compliance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, with modern tools and automation, it's great at catching duplicates and really great at validating vendor data or flagging anomalies, but it doesn't like really replace my staff. It doesn't, and that's what I always want to make sure that they're aware of, that they're not getting replaced by AI or automation. Like I'm wanting to elevate them to the next level so they can get more into analytics. And I position the automation as like a first line of defense. And then my team is still the final call, especially in complex and sensitive cases. It balances and protects the efficiency and the quality. And, the more automation you add, the more controls and audibility become, it's all logged. And so I insist on like really clear role-based permissions, segregation of duties, reporting trails, and Xelix falls into line with these controls that I've already established in other systems. So efficiency really only counts if your compliance is never really compromised. And so we've designed a process where the system enforces the rules and not the staff necessarily. And we've had great audits ever since I've been here.
That's great. That's a great answer. This next question as well. I mean, you kind of touched on the changing nature of the AP role. My next question to you is, how have you worked to ensure that that change is being recognized and to ensure that AP is seen as more than just a back office function at full speed?
Well, so what kind of really matters here is like getting the recognition of your stakeholders or your C-suite people and kind of stepping outside of the normal box of AP. We've mapped out who changes, like who the change touches. So it's like the AP staff, anyone in the workflow, our vendors, and then of course leadership. And then I really tailor communication down with vendors. I believe the benefits, even if like the payment is not out because the invoice hasn't been approved, we still have that visibility on that communication to kind of resolve disputes very quickly. And then with leadership, I really focus, it's always right. It's always about the ROI and risk reduction. And then with staff, I highlight time saved for their higher value at work. Um, I would also say that circling back to the ROI function or piece of this, that's how we prove the needs of the department. So, for example, with Xelix, since we're talking to you, Lewis, you guys came in with, your estimation of credits received. We have a lot of national parts vendor houses that will not really send us credit memos. They just kind of throw them on the statements, and circling back again to the statement reconciliation not happening. We were missing out on a ton of credits. And so Xelix came in with an estimation. I honestly don't recall what it was in credits we would, recover with the statement rec tool. And we recovered over $200,000 in missed credits in the first 3 months.
Mm.
I proved myself right there with my CFO. I gained myself a seat at the table almost. And so just positioning yourself in a place to better the business and bring that ROI has really elevated me specifically in my department, my team, to a more integral part of finance.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, I mean, just touching on what you mentioned there about, bringing that business case to your CFO and then recognizing those credits within the first 3 months. I mean, how do you think that's changed the way you engage stakeholders through change? So if you're introducing a new system or a process, what's important to, yeah, what's important to stakeholders, and how is it that you engage them and get them interested in that kind of transformation?
Well, I think that I already had gained some trust prior to Xelix. Given my reduction in headcount, my increase in financial accuracy, like I said in the very beginning, I don't even know if AP really ever sold the GL, but I was told like 18 days or 23 days or something like that. And we are fully closing the books for AP in 2.5 days now. And Xelix has been a huge component of that, because we're able to reach out to our top 80% spend of our vendors, request statements, get them through Xelix, looking for missing invoices, missing credits, and then we can really actualize all of our expense in the correct period instead of later on, which impacts I don't know, our store-based bonus or location-based bonus. I don't know if everyone has that, but of course we're retail. I used to work in healthcare before that, so there was no bonus for doctors. But I think that giving that full financial scope and like being very accurate in our financial data and our audit detail has kind of put me in a position where, you know, the AP department or accounting department may have not been before. And that's through definitely a group effort. I've really great controller, director of accounting. I'm surrounded by really incredibly smart people who kind of motivate me. We recently got an accounting systems manager who has been really instrumental in helping me with Power Automate, Dataverse, Power Apps in general. So again, like putting myself into being a more proactive person in my role and involve more automation and technology, Xelix included, has put me in like a higher tier than I think someone else in my role in another company.
Got you. Yeah. And you've certainly spearheaded a lot of transformation projects while you've been at Full Speed. Um, Out of all the transformation projects that you've been a part of, which do you think has had the biggest impact on your AP function, and what lessons have you learned from it?
I will say that Xelix might have been the most instrumental, not only because it's so unique, right? There's so many invoice automation processing systems out there and platforms. There's not a lot of statement reconciliation tools out there. So I think that has really gained us. I mean, processing invoice isn't going to gain us an ROI, right? Like maybe we can down staff a bit, but they were already using something similar before I came on board, just not as effective as what we're currently using. But regardless, um, Xelix, again, like I think I was at 6 direct reports before Xelix, and we were able to downsize one after. And I'm not like the head, I'm not I'm not like the undertaker. Like I'm not over here to like cut count on staff or anything like that. Like that's absolutely not my goal when I come into a company at all. I just there was automation opportunities and there were people with like better systems experience and again like so what it comes back to is like people being able to integrate into new systems very easily, and that's one of the biggest skills you can have nowadays, not problem solving obviously, but I think Xelix has clearly offered the greatest return on investment for Full Speed. Uh, it, it was it was an easy choice.
That's so good to hear. That's great. Yeah, it's great to hear about that success that you've had, especially with the credits and the return on investment there. So when we're talking about AP, we normally hear a lot about KPIs. Um, my question is, beyond KPIs, what does success in AP look like for you at Full Speed?
We've already talked about this, Lou. I don't care about KPIs. I mean, I do personally to make sure my team is working effectively. But what really matters to everyone up there is like how much money are you saving? How much money are you getting back? How it's really what you're doing for the bottom line and your EBITDA. Like and that's what they care about. And we've already kind of touched on that, but that's how I really try to bring accommodate or like phrases to my team is through data accuracy, automation, speeding up close, and trying to get as much money back from these vendors that, someone's paid by with a credit card that we paid the ACH. We just got 20 grand 2 weeks ago because someone
Yeah.
paid with their credit card. So it's really more about at this point, automating as much as we can, bring as much money back to the company as we can.
Mhm.
And I know you guys have a transaction tool that could prevent us from even letting go of that money eventually. So that's really what speaks to the higher ups.
Got you. Okay, good to know. Um, that's great. Well, I have one final question for you, Jacqui, one final AP related question. And it
Hmm.
is, if you had a crystal ball and you could look ahead 5 years into the future, how do you see the role of AP evolving, and how might the tech sector and tools like Xelix and other automation tools help shape that future?
Well, I can say we're already like 3 feet into that future at this point. It's all, I'm not even AP anymore. I'm tech and accounting.
Mm.
I'm automating as much as I can. I'm running accruals. Like, um, we are we are already in the thick of it. So 5 years from now, I really honestly can't even get into that, but maybe 3 years, I do think that if a company could develop an invoice processing system that utilized a learn language model, um, and we could really get into like a very automated AP process. And of course, like a lot of companies do use three match and PO, but we don't use that. And my previous company, I just implemented it right before I left. So I've never really get to see it in action for a full year. But for example, one of the we're making up new titles as we go at this point because AP is kind of in its like core. We're not just processing payments and doing data entry, coding invoices. Like we've automated the coding of the invoices, we've automated the data entry. We're making smarter choices about cash flow, revolving treasury, fine. Like we're just so much more involved than we used to be. And with the new tools that we have, like we are already systems owners. Like I don't even think at my current company that they really think of AP as data entry and payment processing. I think that as of right now, we are systems owners. We own our ERP, we own our invoice processing system, we own our help desk ticket system, we own our credit card and T&E system. Like we own all of these different platforms from beginning to end. And it's only going to evolve more than that. We're only going to automate more. And I feel like the beginning part of AP is going to be completely transformed into as to eliminate as much data entry as possible. And
Mhm.
again, like I told my team, like this isn't to eliminate your role. Like, you guys are smart. Like this is where you're gonna look at our T&A expense, see what's out of line. You're gonna look at our T&E, and you're gonna identify things that people should be spending money on. You're gonna just be able to do a deeper dive and like really track projects that could go to CWIP or fixed assets over time because maybe the initial project didn't estimate to cross the threshold. We can get more heads down and be more accountants, be more IT. A role label that's been thrown around out there is director of like accounting transformation and automation, so we're we're gonna make it up as we go, I feel like, because it's not been done before.
Got you. That's really interesting. So essentially, like the very nature of the job is changing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's exciting to think about. Well,
It's hard to think about when you're in this role and you have that title and people look at that title and pigeonhole you into this like scope of work. But it's exciting to know that the breadth of like what you put into things is going to be more recognized in the future. And um, yeah, we just have to integrate ourselves more and it'll be good.
100%. Cool. Well, Jacqui, thanks so much for joining me here at the AP Arms. This has been a
Thanks,
brilliant
Lou.
conversation. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to do this in a real pub sometime soon.
Don't tease me. I've never been to a real pub. Okay.